In an age where flagship GPUs are said to cost $2,000 US, but in reality cost even more than that somehow, and that's assuming you can actually find one to buy, I'm finding myself no longer that excited for the latest and greatest games using the most cutting-edge rendering techniques. More often than not, those games are just poorly optimized, and beyond that, they're usually not even fun to play. But every now and then, we get a new AAA title that doesn't run like hot garbage, and therefore doesn't require a flagship GPU for that sweet 60 FPS, using upscaling of course. And above all else, it's actually just a fun game to play. The most recent example of this rare phenomenon is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a game with a critical review metascore of 88 and a user score of 8.8, along with overwhelmingly positive Steam reviews. So I think we have a good one here. That being the case, I've spent the last few days doing nothing but benchmarking GPUs day and night. And that's so I can bring you the most comprehensive performance guide possible, covering 35 GPUs at 3 resolutions with 4 quality configurations. So as usual, we have a lot of data to go over. But before we get to that, just a few additional notes. Firstly, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been built upon the aging CryEngine, though they are using a heavily customized version, apparently. And what this means is stuff like ray tracing isn't included, though I do really wonder how many gamers actually care about this. There's also no frame generation, and while not a terrible feature by any means, its usefulness can be limited. All of that said, important features such as DLSS and FSR upscaling are supported, both of which are actually very useful technologies, particularly DLSS. But really what all of this means is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 isn't going to win any awards for best graphics, not by a long shot. But also, as the reviews indicate, that's not important. Gamers are more than happy to forgo visual fidelity for a game that's both fun to play and plays well, though those two often go hand in hand. Don't get me wrong though, the game looks perfectly fine, and some aspects are even quite impressive, but overall it's not on the same level as a game like Cyberpunk 2077 for example. Now for testing, I'm using an early section of the game, appropriately titled Quest Start, where you ride on horseback taking a predefined path, which makes for a highly repetitive graphical benchmark. The test lasts for 60 seconds, after which point I'm able to quickly load back to the starting point and run the test again. Apart from the standard 1080p, 1440p and 4K resolutions, I'm also testing with the medium, high and ultra presets, along with an ultra plus upscaling configuration using DLSS quality for GPUs that support it and FSR quality for everything else. I have skipped the low preset because although it looks fine, the medium preset is a significant visual upgrade. In fact, going from medium all the way up to ultra often doesn't provide a huge visual benefit, though it does reduce stuff like pop-in, which can be a problem in this game. Anyway, as I said, we have a lot of data to go over, so let's get into it. Starting with the native 1080p Ultra data, we see a number of very promising signs. Firstly, it's possible to push very high frame rates in this title, so flagship GPUs won't be capped to just over 100 FPS, which sadly we've seen far too often recently, and that of course spells disaster for the more mid-range to entry-level graphics cards. For around 90 FPS, which Tim and myself generally aim for as a starting point, the RTX 3080 or 4070 are more than sufficient, though from AMD you will require a Radeon RX 7900 XT. And this is because the 7900 GRE fell a bit short. It does look as though, at least for now, pending any kind of driver updates or game patches, that Nvidia has an advantage over AMD, as parts like the 7700 XT came in just behind the RTX 4060 Ti, which isn't typically what we see when comparing those two parts. For 60 FPS or better, the Arc B580 works well, along with the RX 6800 or RTX 3060 Ti, so good to see those older models still delivering a solid experience using the ultra quality preset. Jumping up to 1440p means you'll want a 6900 XT, 7800 XT, 7900 GRE or RTX 4070 for over 60 FPS. Nvidia still has a performance advantage at this higher resolution, and we see that the 7900 XTX is only able to match the RTX 4070 Ti with 90 FPS. Then, for over 100 FPS, you will require the RTX 4080, 4080 Super, 5080, 4090, or 5090. And as expected, the RTX 5080 was just 11% faster than the 4080 Super and 13% slower than the 4090. Then at native 4K, you will require a 4080 or 4080 Super for 60 FPS, or for an additional 16% performance, there is of course the RTX 5080 now, offering 73 FPS on average in our test. The 4090 was another 18% faster, while the 5090 was 35% faster than the 4090. Now, enabling upscaling at 1080p, which we don't typically recommend as the render resolution is quite low, even with the quality upscaling option, though DLSS is typically better than FSR here at these lower resolutions. Now, the RTX 5080 became 17% faster with DLSS, while the slower models, such as the RTX 4060, saw a 28% performance boost. Then the Radeon GPUs, using FSR, such as the 7900 XTX, saw an 11% boost, while the RX 7600 was 18% faster. The good news here being that basically all GPUs tested could now render 60 FPS or more. Moving up to 1440p, we find GPUs such as the RX 6800 is now able to render 60 FPS, thanks to a 22% performance boost made possible by FSR quality upscaling. We also see a number of reasonably affordable GPUs such as the 7700 XT and 4060 Ti, for example, rendering over 70 FPS. Finally, at 4K, we see the true benefits of upscaling, as extreme GPUs such as the RTX 5090 saw a 33% performance boost. And the same uplift was also enjoyed by the 7900 XTX. And this allowed the Radeon GPU to average 73 FPS. Again, the same level of performance seen from the RTX 4070 Ti. It's also now possible to render 60 FPS using either the 7900 XT or RTX 3080. Dropping down to the high preset increases the RTX 5090's performance by a whopping 50% to 341 FPS, and this is exceptionally good news because it means basically all GPUs can now render over 60 FPS, and this is at native 1080p. This also means GPUs such as the RTX 3060 Ti were able to render almost 100 FPS on average, so pretty great stuff there. Now at 1440p, we're still looking at an almost 40% performance uplift for the Radeon RX 7900 XTX when compared to what was seen when using the Ultra preset, while the RTX 4070 Ti was 32% faster. This means playing at over 60 FPS with the high preset, even at 1440p, is relatively easy to do, requiring only an Intel Arc A770, B580, RTX 3060 Ti, or RX 6800. Then at 4K, we're looking at a 28% performance increase for the RTX 5090 over what we saw when using the Ultra preset, and a 31% increase for the 7900 XTX. For 60 FPS or better, you will require an RTX 4070 Ti or 7900 XT, though technically the Radeon GPU just fell short of that target. Now, using the medium preset boosted the performance of the RTX 5090 at 1080p by a further 9% when compared to what we saw with the high preset, and 64% from Ultra. The RTX 4070, on the other hand, enjoyed a 21% performance uplift when going from high to medium, making for a nice 69% performance uplift from Ultra to medium. What all this means is, all GPUs are now able to render over 60 FPS, even the lowly Radeon RX 6600, and the game still looks great. Even at 1440p, and we are talking about native 1440p here, using the medium preset, it was possible to render 59 FPS on average using the RTX 3060, RX 7600 or 7600 XT, while the RTX 4060 was good for 63 FPS, and the B580 an impressive 77 FPS. Then for those of you looking for 90 FPS or better, the 6800 XT, 7700 XT, 7800 XT, or RTX 4070 will all get the job done nicely. Finally, at the native 4K resolution using the medium quality preset, it was possible to render more than 60 FPS using the RTX 3080, 4070 Super, or 7900 XT. Then for over 90 FPS, the 4080, 4080 Super, 5080, 4090, or 5090 will obviously work well. It's rare these days that I play or even test a game using the CryEngine. I think Hunt Showdown might be the only current example of that. Anyway, testing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was a breath of fresh air, and as a wise man once said, it just works. And then of course I went and enabled DLSS. Seriously though, it was really nice to test a game that loads quickly and doesn't have those annoying shader loading screens that can take several minutes to complete. So not having those at all, breath of fresh air. Instead, levels load quickly. Stuff like quality settings, they can be adjusted on the fly. And at least in my experience, the game never crashes. So fingers crossed that you guys also find that. But yeah, it's a well-optimized game. It plays perfectly well on a wide range of hardware, and it won't trick your CPU into thinking it's running some kind of Blender simulation. Just loading up some games for testing feels like a real mission. Like the job was just successfully loading into the game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, though, on the other hand, it takes just 27 seconds to load from the Steam interface into the game and ready to play, or just 18 seconds if you happen to skip those splash screens, which I suppose most of you do. It also took just 26 seconds to load into a level. So basically what all this means is, in well under a minute, you can go from the Windows desktop to actually playing the game. Sounds crazy, I know, but some of the games take a lot longer than that. And while some of this may be dependent on your CPU and storage, again, like I said, believe me, there are countless modern games with my 9800X 3D and high-speed storage that take many minutes before you can even click play. Not only are the dreaded shader compilation loading screens not a thing, and nor is traversal stutter for that matter, the game is smooth as silk. This really does highlight the issue we've been having with Unreal Engine games. Clearly, Epic does need to rethink a few things. On that note, I really do think a good chunk of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's success is down to the fact that it's built on an old but very efficient game engine. The fact that the game still looks very good using the medium preset, and at native 1440p can still spit out well over 60 FPS using a GPU such as the Arc A770, RTX 3060 Ti, or RX 6700 XT is awesome. It means basically all of you will be able to play and enjoy this game without having to spend oodles of cash just to get a console-like experience. Forcing the use of stuff like ray tracing would kill these GPUs, and we've seen a number of examples of this already. Take Star Wars Outlaws, for example. I'm not sure to what degree it uses RTFX with the medium preset, but in order to achieve frame rates that are even remotely comparable to what we're seeing in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you need to enable upscaling. Now look, Star Wars Outlaws might even look better than Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 when both games are using the medium preset. I'm really not sure on that one. It is quite subjective. The point though being, if RTFX were forced into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and not optional, I don't think the game would be anywhere near as well received as it has been. Now, you could argue that the game might look much better with RT lighting, but the odds of that being the case aren't great if we look at most examples, and we know for sure it would greatly reduce the performance for what would likely be a very minor visual upgrade, or one that most gamers wouldn't be able to justify given the performance hit, and I don't think I'm wrong about this. In fact, I'm willing to bet the vast majority of you agree, so certainly let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. All of that said though, optional RT effects, they're fine, as long as implementing them doesn't take away from time that could be spent better optimizing the game. And as a side note, I should mention that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 does offer a preset above Ultra, which has been labeled experimental, but I didn't bother benchmarking this preset as the visual quality didn't appear to be improved that much, but there was quite a notable performance hit. So for now, unless you have a very powerful GPU and you're getting excessive frame rates, I don't recommend using the experimental preset. Another area where Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 doesn't push the envelope in terms of visuals is textures, though overall, they're certainly good enough. Even with the Ultra preset, gaming on an 8GB graphics card isn't a problem, and we saw the 8 and 16GB versions of the RTX 4060 Ti delivering pretty much the same performance throughout our testing. Still, sucking up a little bit more VRAM to reduce stuff like pop-in would have been nice. Overall, it's great to see so many gamers enjoying Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and at least from a performance standpoint, I can see why. Hopefully, we'll see more well-optimized titles released in 2025, though I certainly won't hold my breath. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. If you liked it, you know what to do. And we have the join button or Patreon if you want to become a Harbour Unboxed member. Signing up to either one of those will give you access to our exclusive Discord server, monthly live streams, behind the scenes content, and Q&A stuff. So check that out if you're interested, but if not, that's perfectly fine. And of course, I would like to thank you for watching this video. I'm your host, Steve. See you again next time. bye.